No one passes the Marine Corps test without first being human. At least that's what they say. For me, it all began with a bugle call. In seconds, every recruit in the barracks was on their feet. Every recruit except me. I was still asleep in my cot, the last one down while the rest snapped to attention. That was my first mistake, and the first of many humiliations to come. I was at peace, warm in my cot, drifting through dreams, counting 4 less sheep. The next moment, I was airborne. The cot upended and the floor smashed the piece out of me. "This sleeping Codian just earned all of you 50 push-ups!" Everyone hit the dirt around me in perfect unison, assuming the position. One! Nobody moves past 1 until Sleeping Beauty joins in!" Sarge barked. Looking around, I saw my bunkmates sweating for nothing, waiting for me to make their next step official. Every push-up wasted until I started moving. Half of them shot daggers at me, others kept their eyes locked on the floor, muscles trembling with the effort I was stealing from them. Shit, I thought, then assumed the position, and finally 1 turned into 2, then 3, and so on. By the time we were finished, the time for breakfast had come and gone. My arms shook, but luckily I didn't need my arms for the next task. We had to run and not stop for hours on an empty stomach. "The squad moves as fast as the slower runner," Sarge reminded us. "And if you don't pick up the pace, you'll be missing lunch too." Spoiler alert, we missed lunch, and guess who was to blame? My squad mates were going to kill me, so bars and tube socks came to mind. Every one of them looked at me like I was there missing lunch. Predators, the lot of them. Next was the obstacle course. I demanded more of my body than it was capable of. Breaking down from the lack of sleep, hard work, and no food, I pushed myself at a snail's pace. My squad mates waited on the other side, having already completed the course, hungry and tired. I got to the rope wall and stared at my arms. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't hold them steady. The next hour was spent desperately trying to climb an unclimbable wall. Grip, grip, step, slip. Grip, grip, step, slip. Sometimes I could even get a second step in, but in the end, I always ended back in the mud. I couldn't move anymore. My bones ached, my muscles screamed out in pain. I lay there, nose barely above the mud, barely able to breathe when I heard Sarge's voice. "All right, I'm starting to feel sick watching this little puppy try to climb. Someone go pick him up and throw him over that wall." Moments later, I felt a firm grip on my arm pulling me out of the mud and over the shoulder. It was Kyle. He climbed the wall a second time, unceremoniously tossed me over the other side. When he came over to meet me, he looked into my eyes, rolled his, then picked me up again. Next, we swam. We had to hold our breaths, dive 60 feet into the crashing waves, and retire a sunken box. My body was broken and worn out, but I was going to pass. I refused to do anything but pass. I swam and swam, deeper and deeper to 20 feet. Then panic set in. I was so deep and I only had so much breath left. I was probably halfway through my supply of oxygen. I looked down at the box, then up at the surface. After everyone else had surfaced, they all looked down in my direction. After a pause, my head broke the surface. There was a look of relief on some and annoyance on others. I punched the water and cried out. I was going to go back. I couldn't fail another test. I refused. So back down I went, but someone had a hold of my arm. I looked up, and it was Sarge. "You're done for today," he said. There was no emotion in his statement. I would have preferred he yelled at me like before. What did this mean? Did I fail? Would I ever pass? Why couldn't I read his face? Dinner was eaten in silence. No one spoke a word. I kept my face buried in my collar, only looking down at my food, but I could feel the humans glaring at me. They all moved to another table when I brought my tray over. I got it. I cost them breakfast and lunch. I almost cost them dinner if Sarge hadn't dragged me out of the water. Maybe sleep could reset me. Maybe if I could just get a little rest. The next day was a repeat of the last. Over and over and over, I failed every test, my body getting weaker and weaker, never getting the full restful sleep promised, never fully recovering before taking further torture. Finally, we were back in the water. How the humans could hold their breath so long, it astounded me. I kept treading water after every other Marine finished. There was nothing left to do but try again, so I did. Down and down I dove. When I reached the 30-foot marker, past the point I usually turned around, I kept going. I didn't care how much breath I had left. 40 feet, 50 feet. It was dark down there. Or maybe I was dying. 60 feet. I reached the box. I was going to... Everything went black. Next thing I knew, I was spitting out water as Kyle performed chest compressions. After my sputtering went quiet, I heard Sarge's voice. "Oh no. Is it over, isn't it?" I thought.
"Congratulations, cadet! You passed!"
I had to have heard him wrong. What? I asked between a fresh sputtering of coughs.
"You passed,"
he said. He had to be joking. "Sir, I failed every test. I was slow, I was weak, I couldn't do anything."
"You killed yourself chasing that box."
He pointed at the black thing gripped in my hand.
"You chose death over quitting. That's the kind of bastard I want beside me. Not the fastest, not the strongest. The one too stubborn never to turn back. That's a Marine."
"Is that all it takes?" I snarked. He glared back.
"Is that all it takes, Sergeant?"
he corrected.
"And yes, that's all it takes."
He smiled at me. You know, I'm realizing now my bunkmates, they never made fun of me for not being fast or strong. Oh, they were pissed, yeah. And I'm sure none of them liked me. I cost them a meal or two, but being an Encodian never was the issue. They wanted to see if I had what it takes. Were they jealous?